Welcome back to America F1, and we have our special co-host, as usual, Scott from Experiences.xo. Hi, Scott.
Hey, Sherm, how are you? Nice to be back.
Yeah, Scott and I took a great trip to Monza, and we had such a good time. The only bad thing about the trip was he was in one paddock and I was in the other, but we would meet up, and we've promised next time to be in the same paddock at the same
Yeah,
time. And we had such a
right.
good time, and I want to say hello to his lovely wife Donna, and they're just such a great couple, and we just had we just had a good time. I mean, and it was the first time we met in person. Like, we've been chatting online and doing shows online for probably over a year now,
hmm
and this was our first meeting in person. And you know how you see somebody on you talk to them like through chats, or you talk to them and you kind of associate with them, but you don't really know them till you meet them.
That's right.
And Scott is like a friend I've had for the last couple years, but it's like somebody who I wish I had like my whole life. Like, I wish he was a
Same here.
friend from a long time ago, because we
Yeah.
have so much in common. And he just loves sports so much, just like I do, and he loves F1 so much. But we have other interests that are similar, and it's just like, one of my like, I'm sure for him, it's like one of your friends you've grown up with, and you kind of like all of a sudden reconnect it. And when you do that, you can basically talk like you just never had missed each other. Like, I have friends who I haven't seen in 3 4 years, and we'll see each other, and it's like we've never missed a beat. And
100%.
that's the energy and kismet I feel with Scott, and also with his wife. It just was very comfortable. And I'm
100%.
appreciative of good people, and I hope that at our channel and at Scott's channels you feel our appreciation for the sport, and our good nature and love for humanity. So I just wanted to say that, even though
Thank you.
that has nothing to do with F1. But
Nope.
because I have Scott here, I just wanted to say that. And it just was a pleasure finally meeting in person, and I just had a good time with you guys. So,
Yes, it was. Monza was good.
Scott, this race was so boring. Oh my God, Scott, it was
Singapore
so
usually
boring.
is.
It was very hard for me to watch that race.
Uh,
It was
the
so
uh,
hard. And the
the TV
directing.
direction made it even more boring.
Oh my God, talk about it. Please, Lord have mercy.
Yeah, I mean, Lewis runs out of brakes. They're on fire, basically. He can't stop the car, and they're showing the wags in the garages. Now, don't get me wrong. On Experiences XO, we show lots of wags because that's all anybody ever wants to see. You put a video up of drivers, and you get 2,000 views, 4,000 views. You put up wags, you get 2 million views. But on TV, if you watch F1 TV, you kind of want to see the race, and they missed a lot of the race.
They missed a lot of I didn't even know that Lewis had actually passed Antonelli on track. I never knew it.
Or
They never
Antonelli
showed.
overtaking Leclerc.
They never showed it.
Like 10 minutes later, they did. 6 laps later, after Antonelli puts in like an unbelievable dive bomb move late on the brakes on Leclerc. Great pass. 6 laps later, they show it. Whoever was monitoring the store was asleep at the switch, wasn't watching the gaps between drivers. I mean, what you do to see a battle is you see when the gaps get small, you turn on the cameras on those two cars. But whoever was doing it, I mean, maybe I should give up my day job in the legal profession and become a director on F1 TV or wherever it was, because they don't know what they're doing.
It was so bad at one point of the show, of the race. They were showing the absolute back markers. I'm talking about the last four people,
Yep.
ladies and gentlemen, in the race. And they literally showed that for like 6 to 7 minutes. And I was like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, no points at stake. I can understand the battle for 10th, ninth. I get that. But if you're showing the battle for 18th or 17th when you've got battles on in the points, that's kind of crazy. No
It
one
was
wants to see that.
insane. No one
I
wants to
mean, we're
see
talking
that.
about the battle to see, is Colapinto going to lose his seat first versus Lawson versus Yuki. I mean, these are all people likely to lose their seats. It's like people want to see
Don't
the battle in within the
exactly.
point. Yeah, Fernando was sort of the
The Delta,
one of like the delta, like him was like 40 something seconds behind the lead pack. That's right. He was the driver of the day.
it was he
Speaking of which,
was. He had the yes.
I mean, the fans hate George Russell. I don't know what to say. The guy literally has the track record and then he breaks it, gets on pole position. He has 2 track records in a row, gets on pole position, runs away from Max Verstappen on the lead, who's on soft tires and he's not. Yes, he does his T pose and crushes the field, puts on a Max Verstappen kind of drive, and he can't even win driver of the day. The fans just do not like
Can't
George.
even win
I
driver of the
love
day.
George. I'm a George fan. I like George. I mean, I may be biased. I've met him in Mercedes hospitality and spoken to him about one of my passions, watches. Um, but I mean, come on. You don't win. You don't give the guy driver of the day when he performs like that. You give it to Fernando. Look, I love Fernando too. Huge fan. But what did he do to deserve driver of the day?
This is what he did.
Fernando
This
after
is why I'm going to tell you why Fernando got driver of the day
okay,
because of this right here.
team radio.
his radio, his radio was awesome.
That was only one of them. Remember the team radio he did saying about the trophy for the hero of the race because Hadjar was down like a lot of horsepower on his engine and was defending him like crazy anyway. And he got so frustrated when he finally overtook Hadjar, who kept blocking him. He said, "I should get the award for hero of the race."
Then he also said, I think when Lewis Hamilton's brakes blew out, and he was like saying how unbelievable it was because if the car has no brakes, shouldn't he pull over? And I was going at that moment, well, how would he pull over if he has no brakes? How is he going to stop the car?
Not like Fernando would have pulled over, but I got to tell you, like George Russell is like the Rodney Dangerfield of Formula One. He gets
He
no
is.
respect. The
None.
guy crushes the grid twice on his qualifying, gets pole position, dominates Max from the lead from the start, wins pole for the 3rd time in a row. He does pole to the checkered flag when he's won. He did that in Montreal, and he did that in Vegas when I was there with Mercedes. This is the 3rd time. You put him on pole, he's not a pole bottler. He's a winner. And the guy can't get driver of the day. Even then, he can't get a multi-year deal from Toto, who wants to give him a 1+1. Can't get a lead driver salary. He wants to get paid like Lando or Charles, who I think he's every bit as good a driver as. Toto won't give him that. It just the guy. I don't know why he can't catch a break. He has got tons of talent, but he's kind of like right now like the Rodney Dangerfield of Formula One. He just gets no respect. I
You
don't
know,
get it.
you brought up a good point, and I wanted to talk more about that. One, they said that they were going to announce that George had a one-on-one today, but they didn't.
No.
Two, it's a problem, and I think Lewis and also I think Hulkenberg they talked about this before,
Mm-hmm.
where in all these other sports they could have their agents talking to other teams,
Yeah.
and here it's very frowned upon. And George should be a really hot commodity for any team. And if Mercedes didn't want to give him the deal that he wanted, he should be able to go to some other team and command a deal and be able to leave.
Well, you know why, right? Who's his driver management for contracts? Mercedes,
Mercedes,
which is
which is stupid.
it's like a conflict of interest. I mean, yeah, I feel bad for him because he deserves better than he's getting. I mean, it's not right. I I got to tell you, I got to give it to Zach Brown. When Zach wants a driver, a young driver or a valuable driver, he locks him down for years. When he realizes he has a hot commodity, or when Red Bull realizes that they have a hot commodity who everybody else wants, and who's more talented than almost anyone in the field, they lock him down for years. This idea, Toto has as good a driver as he's going to get. He's got a product of his driver academy. He's got somebody who won F2, F3 as a rookie. He's performed at the top of the sport for years. He's a champion driver in search of a championship car, and he just hasn't been given it by Mercedes. But every time Mercedes gives this guy a winning car, he wins.
I think
And
people have forgotten that
I don't get it.
George Russell is Mr. Saturday Night.
Yeah.
He's the guy who was at Williams who would get more out of that damn Williams car than anybody could. He would always make Q3 in a Williams back when Williams was dog crap.
Yep.
And the man, the personality, I get it. Some people
Yep.
don't like his personality because he seems a little English, pompous, kind of, upper crust type. But if you really paid attention, he's the only guy other than Lewis Hamilton to stand up to one Maximilian Verstappen.
Right. Right. He doesn't wilt at the challenge of Max. He doesn't bend. He's not afraid. He doesn't bottle it at the start. He's faced Max at the start repeatedly, and he doesn't lose the lead. I mean, to me, I got to tell you, in life, sometimes this would be my advice to Toto. It's like, sometimes you have to appreciate what you have in life. And when you have a driver as good as George, stop looking at things that probably aren't going to happen. Because I got to tell you, Max, now that Christian is gone, is happy at Red Bull because he's running the team. He has freedom. He can go race on the Nürburgring if he wants now. He can do what he wants. Christian's off his back. They basically get him to stay. They gave him a get out of jail free card. Do what he wants. He's not leaving Red Bull to be under Toto's thumb. Toto's controlling, kind of. I mean, he has that reputation. He's not going to leave Red Bull now. Unless the car is a total dog. He's going to fight to make the team better because it's his team. He's not leaving Red Bull. So Toto has to recognize that and reward a driver who's given his whole career to Mercedes since he was a teenager, who spent 3 shit years at Williams in a crap box when he should have been in the Mercedes car fighting for championships because he's a better driver than a driver I do like, Valtteri, but his skill set is better now. And he was loyal and he didn't leave for another driver family, another team. He did his time. And he really has to reward him, in my mind, and that's the way most Mercedes fans feel. And what Toto and the board are doing is strange to me. I don't get it. I hope they realize what they have and that they finally reward him with the multi-year deal that he deserves, not a 1+1 and a salary that's half of what the other top drivers are, because it's doesn't reflect well on a great brand, in my opinion.
I think not only does it not reflect well on Mercedes-Benz, it doesn't reflect well on Toto.
No.
He should lock down George.
Yeah.
And George is going to be a better teammate to Antonelli than Max would. We both know that. Max could care less about Antonelli.
No.
He would go in there, torch him, and probably break him.
Well, he breaks everybody. I mean, he breaks everybody else because he's just so. I mean, he is the best driver alive today. I rate him a better driver than George. He's a better driver than anybody. And when you have a young 19-year-old who was rushed through to F1, skipped F3, went right through, it's a lot.
It's a lot. And I just think that for whatever reason, Toto has this fixation on Max.
He does.
And I get it. But if you give George a winning car, he's going to win.
He'll be champion.
And so
Yeah,
what difference does it make if you have a champion with George or you have a champion with Max?
I mean, you saw it today.
George will bottle it? What does he think?
You saw it today. George was given, finally, for very few times in the ground effect era has Mercedes fielded a winning car. The times that they have fielded a winning car, George has won. What more do you? Only one time did George bottle it. Montreal 2024. He bottled. He screwed that race up and should have won. It's the only race I can think of where he was given a winning car that he didn't win. Other than that race, every time he's been given a winning car, he's won. That's pretty good, I think. And you're not seeing the kind of mistakes at races that he used to make anymore. He's not making them during races anymore. So we'll see. But look, he ran away from the field. He controlled the race. again, like he did in Canada this year and like he did in Vegas in 2024 when he finally put the stamp on when Lewis was leaving to say when we were there that race, my wife and I, who said, he said, this is my team now. Look, there's
Now
nothing
let's
more we can
talk
speak, but we've got
about
some interesting things to say.
McLaren.
Oh,
There
papaya rules or
is
papaya
McLaren,
fools?
and there you have one back to back.
I don't know what happened exactly. I know he was so angry by what happened when he pulled into Parc Ferme and Zach was congratulating them. He disconnected his radio in the middle of Zach congratulating him and the team. He was kind of
Why do
mad.
you think he did that?
Well, he felt wronged because the papaya rules, or papaya fools, as I like to call them, are that you're not allowed to crash into your teammate. And Lando, in going for that gap to get P3, crashed into him and almost sent him into the wall, and kind of seemed to slow him down and ruin his race. And he clearly wanted the team to make Lando give back the place, and the team didn't. The stewards ruled it a racing incident, and the team said they wouldn't do anything, and so he was, apoplectic from then on, and really didn't drive the same. He was in a sort of a rage and never really caught up to Lando, and he was just in a bit of a state of a rage, I think, from then on.
Now, I have a question for you. Now, seeing that part and replaying it, it looked like Max hit Lando, and then Lando bumped off of
Yep.
him and went into Oscar. That's what it looked like.
Lando got a good start and was going for a gap to get P3, which is perfectly fair. He kind of ran into Max. Max and him had contact, and then he kind of pinballed into Piastri. He didn't intentionally hit Piastri. It was an accident. Look, he got a very good start, and he went for a gap. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, he's trying to win a world championship. I think Piastri overreacted to the incident. It was not an intentional crashing out of Oscar. And frankly, the shoe was on the other foot. We saw it in Monza last year where Oscar made a very aggressive move on Lando in the second chicane. That's something I love to drive in the Porsche 911 GT3R. The second chicane is great. And it's a very hard overtaking spot too. And you would never expect someone to do it in. But he did it, and he was a very risky move, and he could have crashed out Lando, and he ruined Lando's race. And if you're, again, as Senna said, and as basically as Lando said, if you're, there was a gap there. If I hadn't have gone for it, I shouldn't be in Formula One. I mean, they're fighting for a world championship. Of course, Lando's going to go for the gap. Now, he and Max made contact. He pinballed into Oscar. He didn't intentionally hit Oscar, and Oscar should remember Monza last year when he had a very aggressive overtake of Lando. Like, grow up a little bit.
That's
I
right.
thought. I mean,
And it seemed like everybody on the odd side had better starts. Like
yes.
George had a great start.
Yes.
Lando had a great
Yep.
start. Charles had a great start. Everybody on that side seemed to have better
Much
starts
better
than people
start.
on the even side.
Yeah, the other side is the dirty side of the track, and it's a mega disadvantage. That's why Max put on the soft to try to, which was turned out to be a disastrous strategy, and he lost 9 or 10 seconds to George because of it. But the idea was to try to get ahead before the first turn because he knew that George would check out. He thought, they concluded that Mercedes race pace was better, and that George, if he got ahead, would check out. Stay ahead was going to check out. So
But
yeah.
he did what he had to do. He stayed second. I mean, it
Mhm.
looked like he was never after that first turn. It looked like George was good. That was it. That was it. And you're correct, and he was correct. I got to get him by this first turn, otherwise, it's Singapore. It's
I
gonna
mean,
be
once they went
a
on the
mistake.
hard tire, Max actually ate significantly into George's margin. He was down to at one point about 3 seconds, but then he made a mistake. He made an error and almost hit the wall in the same place that Lando almost hit the wall last year. But Lando had like a 20-second lead, so it didn't matter. But Max went from being pretty close to George, he was within 2 seconds, and then he lost like 2 or 3 seconds because Max really couldn't keep up with George, and he was pushing the car beyond what it could do. He was trying to, he was pulling a Max, doing more than the car was capable of, and eventually the car bit him once. But he tried.
He tried. And let's move on to what I'm calling the dumpster fire that is Ferrari.
Oh,
Now, it used to be
I love.
Alpine was a dumpster fire, but now
Mm,
I'm
ah,
finding as a Ferrari, a newly only 2 year Ferrari fan here, because let's be honest, I've been a Mercedes fan and a McLaren fan. I'm wearing the old McLaren gear here.
yeah.
It's really hard to be a Tifosi, Scott. It really is.
You know, the brand has incredible history. The fans are amazing. They are incredibly fun to go to Formula One with. I'm a proud guest of theirs often, and was at Monza, will be again in Austin. But it's just very unfortunate to see the look. The reality of the situation is the person they really needed the most, I hate to say it, was Adrian Newey. They didn't need to fire Carlos. They needed Adrian Newey. The problem they're having is that the development of the car it has been the problem. They're just fielding a very mediocre car, and whether Lewis is in the car or Carlos is in the car. We'll talk about Carlos later with that amazing back of the grid to 10th. He should have been the driver of the day, probably, if it wasn't George, by the way. But Ferrari's just fielding a mediocre car. The problem they have is car development. And when they got rid of Mattia Binotto, who is not a good team principal because, in terms of he doesn't know race operations at all, they should have kept him on as technical director because he can build a fast car. He proved that he can build a very fast car. And they got rid of him instead of giving him $10 million a year to be technical director. They lost all of his expertise, which was a disaster. And with all of their money, they should have given Adrian Newey the control and the engineers he wanted. The issue with Adrian Newey was he wanted to bring 15 senior engineers into Ferrari, and Ferrari culturally wasn't ready to have that kind of turnover within its ranks because they would have had to fire a lot of their people to accommodate the people Adrian wanted to bring in, and they wouldn't do it. And so they lost him, but they needed him because it doesn't matter if it's Lewis behind the car or in the driver's seat or Charles or even Max. If they're fielding a mediocre car, you can't win. And
And
that's really the problem.
it's not only that, Scott. I think if they had a winning car, they would still bottle it. You know why? Because look, they can't even get qualifying right. They keep using up tires when they shouldn't use tires. They're sending out Lewis when he's a tenth off of Max. You know the bottom five aren't going to get a tenth off of Max. Why are you sending them back out and ruining the tires? Why aren't you saving a tire for Q2 when you already know he's going to make it out of Q1? Why aren't you saving a tire for Q3 when he has the fastest time in Q2 and you know he's going to make Q3? I don't understand. These
I
are
would agree.
basic things.
No, I
Basic.
would agree. The race operations are not where they should be. But I got to tell you, McLarens are often not either. But when you have an amazing car and strong drivers, it can make up for a lot. And McLaren has shown that because their strategy is not always the best. The race operations are not always the best, but the car is super fast and their drivers are top quality, and they win anyway, or they overcome it anyway. And to me, if I were Ferrari, I would have spent my money and given Adrian Newey anything he wanted to come, because the problem is the car. That's the biggest problem. There are other problems,
But
but the car is the biggest one. It's not
the
just not
car
there.
is the
It's mediocre.
biggest problem. But
Yeah.
don't you think the engineering, the day-to-day engineers like Lewis's engineer, I don't know, maybe he has secret pictures of John Elkington and
Ricardo
maybe he has
Ricardo
secret
Adami.
pictures of Fred lying around that we don't know about. Why is this guy still employed? Why is this guy still? He
Funny.
was bad with Carlos. He was bad with Vettel. Why is this guy still employed? I don't get it.
He is no Bono in terms
I
of
don't
his
get it.
communication. He seemed to do okay with Carlos. The two of them got along just fine, but he is not. He and Lewis don't really gel. I don't see them really gelling like Bono and Lewis did. He seemed to do okay by Carlos. Carlos did fine, but Carlos also is more of
No,
his own
but don't you
strategist.
remember Carlos was running the strategy department over there. He was
Carlos
on
is
his
more of
own
his own
strategy.
strategist, whereas Lewis does rely more on the engineer. That That is true. He's probably more appropriate as an engineer for a Carlos type because he's quieter. He's not as vocal. It's true. He's not as vocal.
He's not as vocal. He doesn't give feedback. There's a lot of dead air when Lewis is asking for feedback, like he's checking, like he's calling somebody else to get the answers or something like that.
He's not as
And
he's not as compatible with Lewis. I would agree. But you know what? If they gave Lewis a fast car and Charles if they gave him a car as good as the 22 Ferrari was before the technical directive in the middle of the season, those guys would be winning a lot of races and competing. I mean, Ferrari almost won constructors last year because they had a really good car, and it really slipped back this winter.
Come on, players, stop hating. Stop hating. Start participating. Start participating, star. Come on, twinkle, twinkle, baby. Twinkle, twinkle.